Yes, we've got a little frog, a little painted reed frog, who is normally sort of black with those orangey yellow stripes, but because it is akin to the surface of the sun out here today in terms of heat, this frog has the ability to change its colour and has completely dismissed that black pigment for now and gone totally white in order to reflect the heat. And to try and stay a little bit cool. You can see the way that those frogs always sit with their legs always tucked up as well. That just reduces the amount of, oops, sorry, there's a bit of a gust of wind, reduces the amount of skin being exposed to the elements, and is again just a way to combat desiccation and water loss. And as you can see, this is a frog that doesn't always have to be next to water, but you do find them sort of free roaming. We also get them around water. You can hear them in summer's evenings. They become very vocal, this very sort of high-pitched cheeping sort of that they do around the waters. But a very, very pretty thing. To give you an idea of size, that's probably only about, where is he, just under an inch maybe in length. So they do get bigger than that, so it's still a youngster at the moment, but it is sort of, I suppose, early-ish in the season in terms of wet seasons. But very, very nice to see. It's always good when you see some of these unusual things that you don't see during, well, unless you look hard for it. I just happened to notice this little white thing on the leaf as we went past. So yeah, normally around water in the evenings, but they will sort of chill in the canopy of trees close to water. And we're not too far from twin dams here, and there are seasonal pans dotted around. But I just wanted to show you, because it's quite a, if there are quite a few subspecies, depending on where you are in southern Africa, of this painted reed frog. So I'll show you a little map here in a book, because there's some really spectacular different colour variations. So you can see here, these are all different types of painted reed frog designs, if you like, that you can get. And this map shows you where the different species or subspecies are found. So you see there's no crossover, so they're very much sort of regional differences. So we're in this section. This bit here is the eastern side of South Africa, so that's basically Kruger Park. And this is the one that we've got here, but you can see here it's black with those orange stripes. I don't know, can you zoom in further than that? Yeah, so you could see the one we were looking at, these orange stripes were visible, but all of these black parts had turned white in order to help to reflect the sunlight today. But you can see the different variable colours, all painted reed frogs, just different subspecies of them. This one's rather impressive, isn't it? This beautiful green. So you get a certain group, in fact that green one there occurs along here in the Eastern Cape, and then we've got this more sort of mottled one occurs in KZN, then we've got this one in Mpumalanga and Mozambique and Limpopo, and then a whole bunch of different ones up in Zimbabwe and Botswana. So a very variable coloration, but very nice to see, not something you see every day. It's one thing I've missed actually, summer's evenings. Frogs can get deafening. I remember when I was working for eco training many years ago, I had an issue where I overslept one day because, and I think only in 2.5 years of, well, 2 years of working there, I only overslept once, but next to my tent was a big puddle. And there was one night where the frogs were going ballistic. I couldn't even listen to my tablet or anything on full volume, and I think I just slept through my alarm because my brain had drowned out all ambient noise because it was just so loud, it was deafening. Malone, in terms of how they climb trees, they have really sticky pads on their feet, particularly these sort of tree frogs, the foam nest frogs that we see, the brownback tree frogs, these painted reed frogs, frogs that are quite happy being a little bit arboreal. They've got sticky sort of suction pads almost on their feet, and they're really weird. Those foam nest frogs can get really sticky, and I remember when I was working in Savannah in the Sands many years ago, it was my first sort of proper job. I remember coming down to make tea and coffee early, and one of the guests had arrived earlier, and she was just sort of milling around over by the seating area, and she went down to have a look at one of the coffee table books that were there, and there was a foam nest frog that was also white like this sitting on the book, and she thought it was an ornament, so she went to go and pick it up, and of course the poor little frog got a fright of its life and jumped straight at her and attached itself to her face, and there was this blood-curdling screams and this lady running around the lodge with a frog attached to her face because she didn't know what was going on. So very, very sticky. They'll stick to you, they'll stick to other substrates. Are you starting to change colour? He has. He's beginning to develop a little bit more of that black now. You can see, because it's actually cooled off, or there is a nice cloud above us at the moment, and maybe with that wind That's amazing. You can see how what was white, we're now developing that darker colour that I showed you in the picture in the book. Amazing, the control, unconscious control of the pigmentation in the skin. I'm not sure how frogs do it. If it's the same as chameleons, they've got pigmentation cells there which can expand and contract, which then changes the wavelength of light which is absorbed and given off. That I'll have to go and double check on. But how amazing is that? I promise you it's still the same frog.